talk to citizens of Gauteng.
Yes.
The EFF is so cold, it calls Amapanyaza the crime wardens, it calls them Ama green beans. It says through their CIC, of course,
yes,
once they take provincial power, they are going to fire all of those guys.
Sure.
What message can you give to the citizens?
I think that's an own goal, eh? But it's not only, I don't know why we're fascinated about talking EFF saying that. Etienne hasn't said, when we take national government, we're going to fire all public servants. That's what he said. So it's not, we may be fascinated about the EFF, but there's somebody who's talking something bigger than what the EFF is saying. To me, their politics.
So, Lalabati, thank you. John Steenhuisen, like his predecessor, Helen Zille, always make fumbles. And sometimes you ask yourself, are these fumbles or they are just appealing or appeasing their racist fans? Because for an example, Helen Zille, when she was leading, even after she was leading, she would continuously do racist things. So on this advert, you'll realize they deliberately provoked African people, the African patriots, deliberately to appease someone, because they cannot claim they did not think that burning a South African flag for that matter, represents anything, because they already have their own flag, by the way. Helen Zille and the DA Whites, they already have their own flag in Western Cape Town. Actually, they want to move there, so they bent our flag, and they miraculously brought it back at the end of the advert. But that's immaterial. But of course, everything that I'm saying works around the fact that they are so confident with upsetting Africans that they know they will always come back. So, for instance, John Steenhuisen called the Amapanyapanya, the Green Berets. Well, of course, ANC initiative, EFF hates them. They say they will cancel it when they come back, but they since changed their mind. So he calls them green beans, but he takes the cap because he calls them drunkards. That's what he calls them. He says drunkards, and Pep Store was catching strays there. What saddens me, in fact, is the African people inside Democratic Alliance. It's sad because they have to live through all of this, and they are expected, whenever they go to the media, to go and defend this. They defend it because they've got nothing. It's a job. That's the saddest part. That's the saddest part. So, you know what they say, Action SA is the new DA because the funding, everything is the same, like BOSA and stuff. That's actually consistent with what is happening. So, this lady, the advocate puts up a list, and Advocate Julie Lopez Seton of Action SA, she puts out a list and she scandalizes the most wanted people, and those most wanted people are African people. And you know what's funny? She makes no mention of Phala, but Zuma is there, but Ramaphosa is not there. So, you know, these narratives that are out there, these people are just feeding them. So that's why it's very difficult. So this is the reason why African people do not vote the Democratic Alliance. And then there's this other white guy who goes out, guns blazing. He swears at Julius Malema so hard, and he uses the Bible. He calls Julius Malema stupid. He goes overboard. So I want you to understand. So if you're an African like me, you are demeaning an African man. To me, in front of me, you think that I will vote for you, because that's the same thing you're going to do to me. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying these people are innocent. I'm saying you are skipping other white people, but you're exposing this one. For example, let's talk about Julius Malema on this list. I mean, what has Julius Malema done? She's talking about the list coming from and Floyd Shivambu. She's talking about lists that come. She's talking about media narratives that alleges these people to be corrupt. And you know, it's very sad. The Action SA and DA are always doing racial slurs, provoking us because we are angry at the ANC rule, and they want to win us to them using these things. It is so, you know, and this is the reason why people vote African parties, is because, I mean, you are impaling our black heroes. You put them on a stand, and you think we would love you for doing that. And this is the difficult thing. No matter how objective you are, you know, Penwell was once a member of AfriForum, and well, he left AfriForum. And one of the things I knew he wasn't going to last is because AfriForum only prosecute African people. And I'm not saying those African people are bad. I'm saying as much as you prosecute African people, and because you do not see race, because we tell you are a racist organization, you say you are not, then why don't you prosecute even whites who do the same wrongs? Because don't get me wrong, if this list that she's talking about, the advocate, if it involved white people who do crime, of course they are there. If you include them, then it's fine, but you cannot include them. I mean, there are a lot of white people who do crimes, but she deliberately did not include them. There are white people who, I mean, she's so confident writing out a list like a cowboy sheriff who's going to, you know, anyway, just watch it, but that's what I think about the advert. This is my opinion about the advert that DA does. It's just a repetition of everything they've been doing bad in South Africa, agitating us, making sure. Helen Zille has been saying, we must be happy that the white people, came to South Africa to colonize us, because colonization was a good thing. She says so. And you can imagine if you allow such a person to rule you. But the ANC, of course, they've allowed such things to happen. You know, and one thing that irks me about Helen Zille, she does all of these things. She expects us to recognize her as one of the heroes because of what the Steve Biko story while she was still a journalist. This is how low, and this is, if you always ask yourself, why is it difficult for ANC to be as bad as it is, as bad and terrible as ANC is, this kind of advert that the DA has made reminds people of the wrong things white people keep doing. Do you know what DA did in Tshwane when they took over office? They took pro-poor things that were made available by ANC. They removed what they called POP. POP is an indigent program where poor people are taken care of. These poor people are African in particular. African government came in to take care of these people. White DA comes, it removes that thing. And the way they remove it, in a subtle way, they use red tape and stuff just to remove this thing. And this is why people don't trust the DA. It's very difficult for African people to trust the DA because they keep saying you're going to bring apartheid back because you live like you are. But anyway, that's my opinion about the DA. Of course, I've linked Action SA on it. You decide. You tell me how it makes you feel. Thank you.
In this election, for the first time in 30 years, the ANC will lose its majority, but they will do anything to stay in power. Imagine a coalition between the ANC, the violent EFF, and the Zuma faction. Under this coalition of corruption, life will only get worse. This election is about survival. Unite to rescue South Africa. Vote DA.
The list of top 10 most wanted prosecutions we are therefore presenting today is a list of high-profile individuals where clear evidence exists against them. These are individuals who are clearly ready to be prosecuted, but instead we've seen delay after delay and excuse after excuse. They deserve to be held accountable, but for political reasons they are being protected. So without further delay, let me present Action SA's list of the top 10 most wanted prosecutions. It's presented in alphabetical order and it's therefore not ranked. So don't take the order in which I'm giving it as the order in which we deem as the order of importance. Number 1, Ace Magashule, Mr. Teflon, who uses his sons to foil allegations that he's involved in corruption in the 255 million rand asbestos tender, corruption in the 280 million rand Vrede Dairy project, contravention of the Public Finance Management Act, fraud, corruption and money laundering. And in fact it was brought to my attention earlier on that one of the houses that his sons occupied is in fact in this very street. Edwin Sodi, top 10 number 2. Not a politician but well deserving of inclusion. Mr. Sodi has become synonymous with a new capital elite that is siphoning money from government contracts and channels, and channels it through to the governing ANC in the form of donations, all the while delivering subpar work, which has contributed to incomplete crucial maintenance of critical wastewater infrastructure such as the Rooiwal wastewater treatment plant. And we all know what happened there, and resulting cholera. It's a disgrace. Mr. Sodi warrants inclusion because of the allegations surrounding the corruption in the 255 million rand asbestos tender, corruption in the 290 million rand Rooiwal wastewater treatment plant tender, contravention of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, in addition to fraud, corruption and money laundering. And the rot must stop. Number 3, Floyd Shivambu. Those who flaunt it and have certainly not worked for the money they have amassed must be investigated and charged for the part he played in the corruption in the VBS Mutual Bank scandal. The 3.6 million rand in the VBS loot traced to Mr. Shivambu's personal bank account. Corruption and money laundering. And it is for this reason that Action SA would lobby for an SIU investigation into the VBS scandal to unearth the corruption which has taken place, to further solidify the findings of the South African Reserve Bank, the great bank heist which was commissioned by Advocate Terry Mutawa. Number 4, Gwedi Mantashe, back on the ANC lists for Parliament. Notwithstanding the fact that the State Capture Commission report found he unduly benefited from the BOSASA grand-scale corruption. He accepted home renovations and security upgrades from BOSASA. He's been accused of contravention of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act and has been implicated in bribery and corruption. Number 5, Julius Malema. He who uses anything and anyone to deflect and draw attention away from the luxury lifestyle he leads, without having any means of proving that it was honestly earned. We want to see him being investigated for corruption in the VBS Mutual Bank scandal, the stealing of millions of rands through the VBS scheme, the Public Protector report titled On the Point of Tenders for Possible Violation of Our Tax Laws, Corruption, Fraud and Money Laundering. Number 6, Jacob Zuma. He of the fire pool in Nkandla. Is he a fraud or has he committed fraud? Our chief state capture architect who conspired with the Guptas to plunder the state's resources while deliberately and intentionally aiding and abetting the capture of our strategic SOEs such as SARS, SAA, Transnet and Eskom, just to name a few. His disrespect for the rule of law is manifest in his insistence to again attempt to stand for office, knowing that he may not, and not stopping his party from threatening violence if they do not get their way. This is not somebody we want back in Parliament or anywhere near it. Malusi Gigaba, number 7, a captured minister back on the ANC lists. Notwithstanding the allegations that he accepted cash payments from the Guptas, appointed the Gupta family to strategic positions at state-owned companies, and conspired to capture Transnet possible money laundering and racketeering. Number 8, Nomvula Mama Action Mokonyane, the first Deputy Secretary of the ANC, first female Premier of Gauteng, served as Minister of Water and Sanitation, Environmental Affairs and Communications, and she has been accused of having accepted bribes from BOSASA, seeking to influence the contracting of suppliers for the Lesotho Highlands Water Scheme, violation of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act, and breach of constitutional and ethical responsibilities, and this needs to be investigated. Number 9, Zandile Gumede, former mayor of eThekwini, currently under a massive cloud with allegations of hit squads and money laundering abounding. The allegations include defrauding the eThekwini municipality, committing a 320 million rand tender fraud concerning the Durban solid waste tender, contravention of the Municipal Finance Management Act, contraventions of the Municipal Systems Act, corruption, fraud, money laundering and racketeering. And although Ms. Gumede has been charged, we believe the wheels of justice are moving too slowly and are being deliberately sabotaged. Number 10, Zweli Mkhize, yet another candidate in the ANC list. Implicated in corruption in the Digital Vibes tender, 9 million rand was traced to Mkhize's son and his family. The fraudulent contract cost the Department of Health 150 million rand during the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's uphold the rule of law. Let's investigate those who deserve investigation and ensure that those who have wronged our beloved South Africa and her people are pursued to the fullest extent of the law. Let's get the specialised courts up and running and hold those responsible for corruption to account. Let's weed out the rot. Let's fix South Africa on 29 May.
Into senayikhola kunombutho lokuthiwa iDA. iDA ingane ye-National Party. Sandikhohliwe ngoba ngiyangibona abantu abamnyama sebeyijoyina nje. Yile party yayisicindezele. Ngidabuke ngibona ingane sesikhuluma isingisi esikhulu lapha. DA will do XYZ. Hayi. Mazolo lokhu bese sikhala ngabantu abasibiza ukuthi sizinkawu. Racism. Ucabanga ukuthi labo bantu uma uthi umholi wabo bakuthatha serious. Withoyisi nje basebenza ngawo ispanel. Bahambe bevula ngawo. Nawe usukhoshile uthi umholi. Maye babo. Kulele kunye ukuba kubili ngabe kuyavusana.